Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're talking a little bit about Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings and the recent controversy surrounding the star of the movie, kind of calling out and going after the Disney CEO Bob Chapek, and how apparently it was a misunderstanding of the actual context of what Bob Chapek was saying. And if you've been watching my streams for a long time, you know that context is always key. But is this going to have any impact on whether or not people go to see this movie? And is this going to stop the fact that this film is right now set to be yet another massive financial failure for Disney? We'll talk about that today as well. But before going any further, please make sure that you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live onto the channel. So this is something that has been making the rounds on the various YouTube channels and, of course, in the media as well, and that is that the Shang-Chi star Simu Liu, again, probably mispronouncing the name there, who on Twitter, apparently on social media, basically called out Bob Chapek because Bob Chapek, in his talk about Shang-Chi, said that it was going to be an interesting experiment, which seemed to indicate that this film really wasn't being taken very seriously, that instead it was just going to be some type of experimental process, and obviously the star of the movie, who probably doesn't feel like it's just an experiment, but that it was a legitimate film, as any actor in any movie probably would feel. He, took to social media and was saying, okay, I don't agree with this assessment at all. Well, now Kevin Feige, who is, of course, the lord of the MCU, he decided to come out to say that this was all just a misunderstanding, which obviously we got to take everything with a grain of salt because we are not really understanding exactly what the star of the film feels about this, if they have actually had a conversation, if they have been able to kind of clear the air behind the scenes or not. This is what we're getting rather from Kevin Feige's assessment of what's going on. And in the end, what we're looking at still is a film that, whether it's an experiment or not, is going to be a very costly experiment, as is the case with any major budget film coming out from any of the major studios this year, because of just how poorly the pandemic has really impacted. And of course, also that the movies that are coming out aren't really inspiring people to actually go out to the theater or to, go out and bring their family and buy popcorn, etc. And we're seeing that especially with the way in which theaters are being so negatively impacted. And a lot of them are starting to have to rethink exactly what it is that they do as theaters. There's actually a lot of talk about theaters adopting, and a lot of them have already started to do this over the last year and a half, various PVOD models, like basically places like AMC, which have their own streaming service, where again you buy titles on demand. There's talk and conversation about how can we somehow get involved with getting day and date release available for purchase on their platform, which, to be honest, I think could be a very interesting way of going about it, because if especially they're able to integrate it into their AMC Stubs program, for instance, if I was able to get access to a film through AMC theaters and be able to use that as one of my free movies from the AMC Premiere service, that could be a really good way, I think, to, one, pump up people getting that subscription service, and also they could still work out a deal with the studios to make sure that they still get similar returns on their investment. And obviously having that subscription model would offset the cost of not getting things like popcorn and soft drinks, which is how they're able to make money, and especially in the first couple weeks of any release, because studios tend to get about 90% of all box office within those first couple weeks, with then it kind of going out from there. But let's go ahead and dive into this article a little bit from our friends over at Bounding Into Comics. It says here, as it says here, Kevin Feige has responded to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings star Simu Liu's outrage, sparked by actors' own misreading of Disney CEO Bob Chapek's recent comment that the upcoming Marvel film will be an interesting experiment, clarifying that this non-controversy was indeed the result of a misunderstanding. Other big aspect to this is that if your biggest star doesn't know what's going on and takes the word of the CEO of the company that he's working for as an insult and a misunderstanding, I don't know. That kind of seems to indicate that there's something going on, and that he may not be all that happy with the experience. Because if I was working for a company and I was loving my experience and I trusted them with everything, if something like this came out, I probably would just be like, it is what it is, or I would kind of wait to talk to somebody about it or get clarification about it before putting anything out there. The fact that he just, put something out there and showed outrage and showed anger over this, it seems to indicate that there's something else going on. Also, I think that it's interesting how we're looking at these images here, because I don't know about y'all, but even just looking at these promotional images, and obviously I would say it's true in the trailer as well, everything that I'm seeing just looks so artificial. And this is, I think, the biggest problem with major budget studios the last few years especially, but also especially the MCU, is that they focus so heavily on these massive CGI green screen, blue screen set pieces where everything just looks so artificial. Like, I don't know about y'all, but when I look at this image right here and I look at his face and the way that the makeup is being portrayed, I don't know, it just looks so fake. It just looks so artificial. And I don't know, I'm just so tired of seeing films that don't really kind of focus rather on practical effects when they can, or on, just the way that a film looks, trying to make it look a bit more realistic, at least maybe having a real background there. Obviously, you have to have CGI for the visual effect there, but maybe having a real background instead could probably offset and make it look a bit more realistic. But then you go to a scene like this too, and the lighting just seems even to be a little off here too. And again, it just comes off as so incredibly artificial. And I just, again, it's hard for me to see this film being a massive hit or success for a wide variety of reasons. But I think one of them too is that when I saw the trailer for this, I was like, okay, it looks like yet another generic MCU action film, and it's featuring a star that I've never heard of, and probably many people who have not read the comics have never heard of either. And the star, I'm not saying that he's a bad actor or not, because I haven't really seen him in anything, but nothing about him really screams compelling to me. When the biggest star that you have and the biggest name that's recognizable, especially by American audiences, is someone called Awkwafina. And again, I think that she has definitely had some good roles and some not so good roles. I think that does kind of also indicate that this is a film that is likely going to very much struggle to bring people out to the box office in such a way. It then says here, addressing Liu's tweet at a media presser held during Shang-Chi's August 16th premiere, Feige asserted he is not a shy man. I think in that particular tweet you can see, and I think everyone does, a misunderstanding. And of course, that is a commentary as well on just the modern world where everyone has to put everything out in tweet form. It was not the intention, Feige further explained. The proof is in the movie, and we swing for the fences as we always do, with the amount of creative energy we put in and the budget. There's no expense spared to bring this origin story to the screen. Yeah. And that, I think, is the biggest problem, Kevin Feige, is that everything you do goes into these massive budgets. And when you actually look at the films, you don't really see the budget on display. Because if the mindset is, look at all of these action pieces, which are mostly all CGI computer renderings, I ask the question, how is it even that expensive to do those types of things? Like the typical mindset and logic that you would think is to have practical effects and to have practical scenery and things like that would be more expensive than having it done in a computer program. That at least would be like the common mindset there. And obviously there are a lot of questions and a lot more nuances to that. But it's just interesting to me that their mindset is throw more money at it and it's going to be fine. When in reality, the issue that they're having with these movies is not necessarily the budget, though obviously during pandemic times, as far as profitability is concerned, that is a major issue. The bigger issue, though, at play here is the fact that when you put out these budgets, but you don't focus on stories and you don't focus on getting the best creative minds behind it, and you have essentially the same team doing all of the action sequences on all of these films, which has been, again, one of the biggest criticisms is a lot of female directors, for instance, that have been called up or I've been talked to, at least a couple of them have spoken out about this, to say that they were asked to join the film, but then they were told that they would not be able to touch or direct the action sequences and that all that would be done by another team. When you start to have those things in mind, you start to realize why so many people are kind of getting so bored with the MCU and other properties, because it's just the same thing over and over again with just a bit of new packaging. And so the big thing, of course, with this movie is that it's supposed to be, it's a martial arts film. Looking at the trailer for it, it's hard to really see where a lot of that martial arts fighting is going to really be seen. You have, of course, one of the biggest shills for Disney on the planet, John Campea, coming out to say it's the best martial arts film that he's seen since The Raid, which again makes me ask the question, okay, so did you see The Raid 2? And there's other films that have also come out from that time as well that feature some pretty awesome fight sequences as well. And just even based on the trailer, I don't see where that would have come into play. Now, again, when the film comes out, maybe there are some massive sequences, but to me, it just seems like this film is going to focus more so on the giant CGI, big budget set pieces that are so artificial that any even fighting or any even stunt work is going to be overshadowed and muddied by the digital noise that's going to be going on around it. It goes on here to say, Chapek's original comment on the upcoming entry at the MCU was made on August 12th during the Walt Disney Company's Q3. Asked why the company chose not to either further delay the release or extend streaming access to their near-term theatrical releases in the face of the steep fall off in second week box, rise of Delta variant, and international markets still unopened, Chapek replied, "At some point, you've got to put a stake in the ground and say, this is what we're going to do." And that's where we're ended up on Shang-Chi and the Free Guy. which are our two next titles out. Well, here's the thing with Free Guy, and again, thank you everyone for putting this correction out in the comment section on that video when I talked about the Free Guy box office situation. So I had said that Free Guy was, in a way, an experiment of kind of testing the waters to see how they could do in a theatrical release only. However, it is also true that Free Guy is from a previous deal when, again, 20th Century Fox originally had the project. There was a contract where it had to be theatrical, and so basically Disney could not have put that on Disney Plus even if they wanted to because of former contracts. And so therefore, because of that reason, it was a theatrical release only. And so, again, that is very true. So again, thank you all for that correction there. But I do still hold to how they are viewing Free Guy as kind of this experimental model where they're saying, okay, since we are forced to do this, obviously, we're going to look in the box office and we're going to be able to make some decisions based off of how well or how not well it does. Now, Free Guy is overperforming what they expected it to make, but it is still also a high-budget film that is not going to be able to make its money back based on just the current marketplace of ideas. And yeah, Shang-Chi is probably not going to be pushed back at this point. It seems like, especially, they've made enough public statements to say, nope, we're committed to this now. But to be honest, I think that this could absolutely put in the future of a film like The Eternals, for instance, which is yet another film where it's featuring characters that no one knows anything about with a massively ballooned budget. And based on the trailer, just a very odd type of movie, too, that's not necessarily going to bring a lot of people out to the theater. But of course, we'll see how Shang-Chi does as well. And then it says, on Shang-Chi, we think it's actually going to be an interesting experiment for us because it's got only a 45-day window for us. So the prospect of being able to take a Marvel title to service after going theatrical with 45 days will be another data point to inform our actions going forward on our titles. And I, again, think that what they're going to realize is that even though it might make a certain amount of money in some markets, and obviously right now there is still no China release at this point, and at this point, I mean, it's going to be kind of difficult for them to get that in there, but hey, Disney has worked with the commies before, so who's to say that they're not going to be able to get a deal out in the very end? But what we do have an idea is that this film is set to be another financial loss for them. They're not going to be able to, in all likelihood, rely on any Disney Plus numbers. They don't seem to indicate that they're going to do Disney Plus in this way. And so all they're going to have is raw box office. And they're dealing with, again, an unknown property, an unknown title with a massive budget. I don't know. I don't think that it's really looking all that good for them. As I said before, the long-range box office for this film, still set to come out September 3rd, is at that opening weekend, it's going to make $35 to $55 million domestically. Keep in mind the other films that have come out this year and where this then would fall in that dynamic. It is not a very strong opening. $100 to $165 million is what it is expected to make entirely in the domestic marketplace, meaning that this film is probably going to end up, best case scenario internationally, somewhere around $350 million, which is well below the amount of money it would need to make in order for it to break even. And the 45-day theatrical window tells me that when it does eventually get put onto a service, after 45 days, I don't think they're going to be able to put that on Disney Premier Access and charge $30 for it after 45 days. So does that mean that it's going to be free after 45 days on Disney Plus? Does that mean that they're just going to hold off and just put it out on PVOD and then eventually put it on Disney Plus for free? Because I don't know about you guys, but looking at this film, I'm kind of like, you know what? I think that we're going to, be willing to wait if we are going to even see this at all. And here is the original tweet in question. It says, "We are not an experiment. We are the underdog, the underestimated. We are the ceiling breakers. We are the celebration of culture and joy that will persevere after an embattled year. We are the surprise. I'm fired the F up to make history on September 3rd. Join us." So again, again, kudos to him for being excited for this project and showing passion for the project and showing some of the shots from the movie. And again, I think that there's probably going to be a lot of people that we can point to say these people worked their tails off to make this film what it is. But again, it does have a lot working against it at this point in time. But anyway, that's a little bit about the controversy of what's been going on. So again, this is obviously a direct response to what was said by Bob Chapek. According to Kevin Feige, he says it was a misunderstanding. I don't know if he has, if the star has issued a retraction of any kind or anything to that effect, but in the end, it's not a good look for Disney. It's not a good look for this movie either, because any type of controversy, I think, is just going to make people less likely to watch it in the end. And as I said, it's not having a very good estimate at this point. We'll obviously be getting some updated estimates pretty soon. Some of the last final, because these are long-range estimates, they always give us those last, okay, here's our final prediction of what the film's going to make. So we'll be on the lookout for that. Also, obviously, sometime, I think tomorrow, usually again between Wednesday and Thursday, they finally give us the weekend estimates for films. So this weekend, we have films like The Protege and Reminiscence set to come out. So I will be covering that once that becomes available. Reminiscence looks like it could be interesting. However, it also looks like it could be like the movie Transcendence with Johnny Depp, which was terrible. So who knows if that Hugh Jackman film is going to be any good. And The Protege with Maggie Q, again, looks kind of like a generic femme fatale type movie, which we've seen before. But overall, I think Maggie Q is great on screen. And I think that working with Michael Keaton as well is just fun. Michael Keaton always, I think, brings it to the screen. So it's a film that I'd be willing to check out. But looking at the theater count on those films, who knows? And obviously Reminiscence will be available on HBO Max same day. And so at the very least, I'll be able to watch that movie to be able to review. But what are your thoughts about the controversy with Shang Chi? Do you think that this is going to have any impact on their box office? Do you think that this is a movie that has more potential than not? Do you believe in what people like John Campea have said, that this is going to be the best movie ever, which seems to be the common reaction of all of the shill media anytime a new major budget film comes out? Because especially if you look at that video he made, you see all of the goodie bags, you see all the catering, and so they do everything they can to make sure all of these reviewers are in the best spot possible to have the best emotions, which we know can obviously impact the way someone views a movie. So we'll have to wait and see on this. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash that like button, light up that fire button. If you are watching on Odyssey, you're all amazing, beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And a huge shout out also to Joe Horn for being a new member over on Patreon. I'm going to try and get you into the video at some point, but wanted to make sure that you got the shout out. You guys are great. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my August Locals, Patreon, and Subscribe Star members. Starting off with my Locals crew: Cat's App, The Real It, D Sharp, Biffer the Hobbit, Robert Barnes, and Goblin Squatch. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on Locals. And now on to my Patreon members: Andrew Hoyle, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father. Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Lance, Laura, the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Allen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Benden, Tina Bojan, and Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. And lastly, to my Subscribe Star peeps: Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B., Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. And a shout out to one new member, Hannibal Grimm. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Subscribestar, and to everyone for supporting me on these platforms. Also, a shout out to all of my YouTube members. You get shouted out at the end of every single live stream. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and every video, please check out my Locals Patreon Subscribe Star. And you can go ahead and find those links in the top link of this description. You can find, it's called the Willow link, and it'll have a list to literally all of the social media platforms and all the different ways that you can support the channel. If you join at the $1 level, you can actually get your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream. $5 level gives you that, plus you get access to exclusive giveaways of 4K titles. Right now, I've got tons of 4K steelbooks to give away this month, including for Top Gun. I also have A Quiet Place Part 2. I have Snatch on 4K, the John Wick trilogy on 4K, and also I have a Sicario 4K disc as well, and a bunch of others that are going to be coming in this month too. So if you want to have access to any of those types of exclusive giveaways, join at the Army of Asgard level. At the $10 level, the Keeper of the Bifrost level, you get all of that, plus you get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes videos, including instant reactions when I go to see movies. I do quick little filmings of myself and talk about the films that I have seen and my instant reactions to that. You also get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger once or twice a month, and you get to also ask us any question that you want. We put a Q&A post up, and you get to ask us whatever it is that you want to ask. So again, if that sounds cool to you, Keeper of the Bifrost level. And lastly, there is the Chosen of Valhalla level, where you get all of that stuff, plus in your first month as a Chosen of Valhalla member, you get a free t-shirt, your choice, ship it anywhere in the world, and also you get to once a month be featured on the OMB Reviews channel, and you get to talk with me. We usually chill out for 3 to 4 hours, and I ask everyone what they've been watching, what they want to talk about, what they want to promote, and it's always a really good time. And so if that sounds interesting to you, please consider joining. That is going to be on Subscribestar and on Patreon only, as Locals is just the keeper of the Bifrost level. But anyway, thank you all very much for your time, for your support, and for listening to this shout-out video. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.